Hi, hello, what's up? And welcome to, finally, the Pokemon Conspiracy Theory Iceberg Explained. Yes, it feels nice saying those words because, my god, this video has taken forever to make. I'd say about a month has passed of me just rewriting the script over and over again, cutting stuff out, putting stuff in there, and honestly, I'm finally proud to say that this video is officially real and I'm not capping. Before I even get to the theories or whatever, I just want to say a huge thank you to r/pokemonconspiracies. They have supplied me with most of the theories that you're going to see on this iceberg, because without them, this iceberg would not have been possible. And that is something I want to go on about this iceberg. I'm not claiming that any of these theories are 100% true or 100% false. I'm simply just showing you the theory and letting you decide whether you think it's real or not. Because I'm not here to dismiss a theory unless it already has been dismissed by the official game developers, which some of them have been, and some of them actually have been like very popular theories. Also, the thing about theories is that you don't really know where they originally came from. So for that, I just want to say that for the theories I found on Pokemon Conspiracies, I will credit the user who suggested it to me. Without further ado, I'm going to get into the iceberg. I hope y'all are ready. But before we do, I just want to say that this video is sponsored by the subscribe button. Please subscribe, okay? This has taken me forever, and yeah, just please subscribe, okay? That makes me 1 inch closer to getting 1,000 subs, and if I get 1,000 subs, I can get paid for this, okay? I'm gonna stop pressuring you. Alright, we're gonna get back into the video. First up, we have Tier 1. Now, this tier is usually reserved for the most popular theories, you know, like the Dittos, the Missing Nose, some Mewtwo's. So bear in mind, it's going to be a bit boring, but hopefully you can manage through. You can skip down. I'm going to provide some timestamps in the comments, so if you want to skip through any parts of the video, you may feel free to do so. However, I just want to say, please just go through the whole thing, man. Watch time is very important in YouTube, okay? I'm just saying. I'm not pushing you. Pokédex entries are fake. So if you play the Pokemon games, you notice that a lot of the Pokédex entries are kind of cap. Like, let's be real, there's no way in hell Mercargo is the same heat as the sun. And this theory basically suggests that it's actually not the professors who write the Pokédex entries, as many may believe. First off, it doesn't really make sense for the professor to tell you to catch them all if he already has all the information of all the Pokemon. So these entries are most likely written by the 10-year-old who catches that Pokemon, aka the protagonist. As the video goes on, we're going to see a lot more Pokédex entries that kind of conflict with each other, so bear that in mind as we get into the next series. Inside a Pokeball. Now, there's a lot of debate about what actually happens inside of a Pokeball. Some say there's completely nothingness, and some say that it's a little environment of that said Pokemon's original habitat. And I'll let you guys be the judge. In the anime, it has actually been portrayed that it's mostly just nothingness and that the Pokemon shrink down in like red energy to get inside these Pokeballs. That's a bit dark. I don't want to think about this. I'm going to assume it's just a little habitat. You know what I mean? Blues Raticate. This has been one that a lot of people have been posting in the thread. The basis of this theory comes from the fact that Blues Raticate disappears in between you fighting him from the SS Anne to the Pokemon Tower. And also, during the Pokemon Tower, he questions why you're even there, remarking that you do not in fact have any dead Pokemon. So people put these two facts together to say that Blues Raticate is dead. Now, like, a lot of people really want this theory to be true because it adds a very dark layer in the original Red and Blue, and honestly, I kind of like it, as dark as it is, but I do not think this is true because, well, for one, why would Blue be kind of chill about you killing his Pokemon? Like, I feel like what he says in the Pokemon Tower sequence is kind of just playing around, kind of, or just being kind of a dick, and I don't really think if you killed his basically pet or partner, he would be acting that way towards you, unless he really did not like that Raticate. Ditto or failed Mew. In the original Red and Blue, people thought that Ditto was a failed experiment of Mew. People thought that since they both learned Transform, and they're both kind of the same color, that Ditto was actually a failed attempt at creating a clone of Mew. And yeah, that's kind of the whole theory. Honestly, I actually kind of like this theory because it adds kind of the idea that there was a lot of failed experiments while creating Mewtwo, and it adds that little layer of like interestingness Is that even a word? No, it's not. What am I talking about? But it adds that layer of intrigue. That's the word. That's the word I was looking for. Maybe there was so much more experiments other than just creating the Mew. And there was many different past attempts, if that makes sense. This theory is probably not true anymore because, well, for one, Ditto is found in multiple regions now, and it's also been established that Ditto do not breed with each other. So if they were truly failed Mew experiments, then that would mean that the scientists failed so many times that the failed test subjects have enough in quantity to populate multiple regions. And yeah, that's basically what I think. Maybe at one point it was real. I feel like Game Freak kind of went away with that whole idea because they probably wanted to go to a new direction. I feel like a lot of concepts from the original Red and Blue were probably dropped because they're either too dark or kind of too complicated, or they just kind of thought of a new way to go about things. Either way, what do you think? Wobba Fett is a decoy. Now, the basis of this theory is basically that Wobba Fett has a tail that has eyes. So the theory is that Wobba Fett is a decoy and the real Boba Fett is the actual tail. The concept of Boba Fett is that it's a punching bag and it absorbs hits and reflects it. So this isn't a far-fetched theory at all. I actually think that it's quite possible. Legendary beasts equal evolutions. In Generation 2, there was a very popular theory that the original 3 evolutions ended up becoming the legendary beasts. The original story of these 3 beasts is that there were 3 dog-like Pokemon that died in the Burning Tower, and that Ho-Oh basically felt bad for them and resurrected them into these beasts that roam the wild. Now, I'm gonna show you some images as a comparison that you can use, and I'm also going to show the original beta sprites because those original beta sprites actually kind of support the theory, because those actually have a strong resemblance to the original 3 evolutions. Yeah, I think that this theory for the most part is true. However, the only foil in this theory is the fact that in the Pokemon Generation short, they actually show the Pokemon that died on the tower. Now, the next theory is that they're actually Houndoom and Boltund, because, you know, they kind of fit. They're a fire dog and a lightning dog, so maybe we're gonna have to wait until the water one comes out to get the whole trio. But as of now, yeah, it's probably the evolutions. Now we're here for tier 2. Now this is where things get kind of interesting, so let's get into it. Split timeline theory. Now the whole split timeline thing is a really weird concept because, as Chase mentions, I'm going to link his video in the description, it's not necessarily a timeline, and it's more of a time web, because some things intercept with each other and some things just don't. It's a very complicated thing that I don't want to get too much into, but I'll just kind of give you the basics. In Pokemon X and Y, it was established that the timeline was split because of AZ's ultimate weapon that basically made 2 universes where one had Mega Evolution and one did not. So that makes 2 timelines, right? Not really. Also, you gotta take into account the Let's Go Pikachu timeline, which is a whole different timeline in itself because the ages of the characters don't really match up with the other timelines, so it has to be its own little timeout corner, as Chase mentions. And then there's also the remakes. Are those their own timeline? What about Sword and Shield? Is that its own timeline? What about Legends Arceus? There's no explanation to this at all, okay? I'm not gonna get too much into it or else I'm gonna go crazy, but yeah, it's a very confusing timeline that I wish Game Freak just simplified, because why is it that complicated? N is a Zoroark. Now, this is actually a very popular theory. In the original Reddit thread that I put out, a lot of people put this. And so, like, I'm curious, wait, what's this about N being a Zoroark? And then I checked. Turns out it's a weird rabbit hole. So there's kind of 2 versions of this theory. The theory that N is just a straight up Zoroark and that the Zoroark took N's place in the middle of his life for some reason. And there's the second theory that actually suggests that N is half Pokemon, half human. I guess let's just start with the imposter one. So the whole imposter theory kind of goes down to the fact that in the original Black and White, you could see N and a Zoroark in a flashback. And then during a later scene, you see a Zoroark running away from you. And then once you go down to chase it, N actually shows up. So that's basically the whole theory, that N is a Zoroark that's pretending to be a human. And then there's the whole human hybrid thing. I'm gonna have to explain this. So basically, there's an old Japanese legend that this imposter-like thing, I keep using imposter, Jesus Christ. But this illusionist thing just went and impregnated a woman while they were resembling a human. And this is kind of the basis of this theory. It basically suggests that the explanation for chasing down the Zoroark and seeing N is actually because N himself is half Zoroark. So he probably turned into one and then turned back into his original state for the fuck of it. I don't know. And I guess to go deeper into it, the reason why N is probably an orphan is because his mom was so ashamed of the fact that the father is an actual Pokemon. So that could be why he got abandoned. I don't know. I don't like this theory. I'm just going to move on. I'm sorry. Deoxys created Pokerus. I'm gonna be real, there's no real evidence for this. I just think it sounds cool, okay? And there's no real official origin for Pokerus, so let's just assume it's true, okay? Don't have to think too much into it, just assume it's true. Ho-Oh made, I keep calling him Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh made Ash 10 forever. So basically this is an old school theory where in the first episode of the Pokemon anime, Ash sees a Ho-Oh and his dream was to become a Pokemon trainer his whole life, and so Ho-Oh granted him that wish by turning him into a 10-year-old forever. That's kind of the gist of it. The whole thing comes from the fact that if you look at Ho-Oh, your dreams come true, apparently. It's just anime, bro. Like, it's not that deep, okay? It's just a little anime. Gengar is Clefairy's shadow. Now, here's a little interesting tidbit about the original Red and Blue. Clefairy was actually supposed to be the original mascot before they decided to go with Pikachu. And so this theory kind of plays into the idea that Gengar is supposed to be the complete opposite of Clefairy. It's supposed to be like the evil version, like how a lot of protagonists in a lot of shows have their evil counterpart. Surprisingly, Pikachu doesn't really have... I mean, you can kind of count Mimikyu, or maybe just Raichu in general. But yeah, it's an interesting theory considering the fact that they both looked exactly the same shape-wise. So, and also if you want to get even more deep with the theory, Clefairy is a normal type and Gengar is a ghost type, so polar opposites. That makes sense. Cubone is a baby Kangaskhan. Cubones kind of look like Kangaskhan's, and Kangaskhan's canonically, I guess, in the Pokedex, state that they wear the skulls of their dead moms. So some people think that Cubone is actually an alternate evolution where what if the Kangaskhan dies and the little Kangaskhan baby ends up having to live on his own. And this theory is kind of supported by the fact that the Beta Marowak evolution design kind of resembles like a kangaroo, so there's more evidence for you, I guess, if you really wanted it. I mean, come on, let's be honest, man. The whole Cubone thing is just kind of confusing. Like, it wears the skull of its dead mother, and yet there's been many portrayals of it having a mother that has a skull of its own. Like, don't you think it's a bit weird? Unknown helped create the universe. Now, I don't know where the original statement came from, but apparently it states that Arceus had 1,000 arms that created the universe. And so, as you can see, Arceus clearly does not have 1,000 arms. So people think that the unknowns are actually those 1,000 arms, if you want to stretch the definition of arms to tools. Honestly, considering that there's not a lot of lore surrounding unknowns, there's other theories that also suggest that unknown is like the code of the universe. So yeah, unknown has like a lot of lore surrounding like the creation of the universe, so why not? Jesus Christ, it's getting very hot in here. It's like summer in Texas and I'm wearing the hoodie just to like look nice on camera. Anyways, we're on to tier 3. This is where things get interesting. Marowak's hunted Kangaskhan's. Yeah, don't you find it weird that like the Cubones wear the skull of its dead mother? Well, I have a theory for you. What if instead of having the skulls of their dead moms, they actually wear the skulls of Kangaskhan's that they hunted? So the thing about kangaroos is that they're actually hunted using boomerangs, and Marowak's signature move is bonering, so that's where the whole theory comes from. The fact that Marowaks hunt down Kangaskhan's and then wear the skulls as a trophy, that's a bit dark if you tell me, like, you know what I mean? I like the theory because I like the idea of like Pokemon hunting each other and like this world not being so squeaky clean as a lot of people think. Anyways, yeah, next time you see a Cubone and think that its mom died, think of it as a ruthless murderer that killed a mother and its child. Red died on Mount Silver. Self-explanatory, when you fight Red on Mount Silver in Pokemon Gold and Silver, he disappears for some reason. No one really knows why. Like, some people think he's dead, but he's not dead considering the fact that he literally makes appearances in later games. Maybe Red was just butthurt that he lost. Butterfree and Venomoth sprites were switched during production. So if you look at Venomoth and Butterfree and their evolutionary lines, you notice that they don't really match up. In fact, if you kind of switch their evolutionary lines, you'd see that it makes more sense if that was the case. So yeah, this is basically the theory that they were switched during production because of whatever reason. I actually kind of think the theory is true because if you really look at it, Venonat and Butterfree have a very strong resemblance to each other. And Caterpie and Metapod kind of look like they can evolve into a Venomoth. However, I think that maybe it was scrapped and maybe swapped because caterpillars don't evolve into moths. Cubone is a Charmander. Another one of the Cubone theories. This one suggests that a Cubone is a Charmander. Honestly, it's up to you on which one you want to believe. Is it a Hunter? Is it a Kangaskhan? Or is it a Charmander? You decide. Arceus has a true form. Now, the thing about Arceus is that it doesn't really make sense for a 10-year-old to catch God. So this theory basically suggests that you don't actually catch God himself, but instead you catch a version of him, like a fragment of God. And this theory is supported by Legends Arceus, where it implies that Arceus actually gives you like a version of himself rather than actually himself, because why would God willingly go under the care of a 10-year-old? I have no idea. So yeah, in case you have a problem with 10-year-olds catching God, there you go. Alright, we're now on Tier 4. Tier 3 was kind of a fast one, but Tier 4 is when the real cool entries start coming in. Aether Foundation created a dubious disc. Alright, so if you look at Porygon Z, you notice that Porygon Z looks very much discombobulated. Like, it looks completely glitched out, and its Pokédex entry kind of states that it is kind of glitched out. But what happened to it? Well, this theory basically suggests that the Aether Foundation, which was a company in Pokemon Sun and Moon that were focused on traveling through wormholes, try to use Porygon 2 to travel through dimensions, because Porygon 2's Pokédex entry states that it can travel through wormholes. And I think that they thought that they meant ultra wormholes, but in reality they meant like internet wormholes. So they tried to experiment on Porygon 2 to try and make it where it can actually go through ultra wormholes, but instead they created Porygon Z, and now it looks completely fucked. What the hell is wrong with you guys? This theory is supported by the fact that you can actually get a Porygon in the Aether Foundation after you beat the game, and also in the Foundation you can actually find a dubious disc somewhere. Also, not much of a theory, but Silvally actually uses disc himself, which kind of hints at the fact that the Aether Foundation has experience using discs. Eternatus is an Ultra Beast. Why did I include this one? I have no idea. Eternatus kind of looks like an Ultra Beast. That's the theory. That's it. I'm not sure if you noticed, but I changed my jacket because it was very fucking hot. So yeah, we're going with the flannel. It doesn't really match with the blue, not really at all. But who cares? This is just for a video. Gliscor hunted Hisuian Sneasel. Now, if you played Pokemon Legends Arceus, you know that in order to get a Hisuian Sneasel, you have to go to an area that has a lot of Gliscors around. Now, if you really break it down, Gliscors have a complete immunity to most of Hisuian Sneasel's attacks, because they're poison and fighting types. Meanwhile, Gliscor is a flying and ground type, if I'm pretty sure. So the theory is that the Gliscors hunted down the Hisuian Sneasels to the point where they had to evolve into an ice type, and then they were able to fight back, because if you know, ice types are super effective against flying types and ground types. Kalos Civil War. Now, in Pokemon X and Y, it states that there was actually a war that happened in Kalos many years ago, 3,000 years ago to be precise. Now, a lot of people think that Galar is actually the region that they're going to war with, because if you know history, Britain and France do not get along. However, this doesn't really add up, because 3,000 years ago, Galar was going through the darkest day with Eternatus and all that crap. So why would they go to war with Kalos? Doesn't really make sense. Unless Kalos was responsible for the darkest day, but I doubt that. So this theory basically states that Kalos actually went through a civil war, which also kind of matches up with history, because France has actually gone to war with itself many times. The French Revolution, and there was, I think there was 5 revolutions, being correct. And also, I think that that's kind of the better theory, because I feel like if there's an enemy like Galar in this war, then that kind of undermines the fact that this is actually like a war that the civilians are having with each other. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like the whole idea of war is that people die, and brothers die, and all that crap over like a nothing cause. And I think this theory kind of supports that whole like idea. Kalos is elitist. I'm gonna read the original Reddit post, because I feel like they do a lot better job explaining it than I do. In Pokemon X and Y, class and inequality is a huge theme. In Lumio City, they won't let you get into certain places. The Sushi High Roller and the Boutique Quarter, I think I pronounced that right. I'm sorry, I don't speak French. unless you have enough style. There is also the Bao Chao, which is exclusive but lets a random child/teenager enter their ranks because they beat the first gym leader in what is probably the easiest game in the franchise. Most importantly, there is also Team Flare, which you apparently have to pay $5 million to join. There's also luxury restaurants and people in the Bao Chao who pay to have Pokemon. There's also a hotel reaching Misni, which costs $100,000 a night to stay at. There's also Emma, whom the main character meets during the Luca quest, who is homeless orphan who lives in the streets of Lumio City, showing that inequality in orphans exists in the Pokemon world. There's also a man who gives you a Lapras because he can't afford to travel with it, implying that traveling costs are quite a bit of money. So Kalos is probably the most elitist region in the Pokemon world to date. This kind of makes sense with old school France because if you know the original cause of the French Revolution, which you should watch the oversimplified video if you're interested, basically the reason why they kind of had the whole revolution was mostly because the poor had like no say in any of the laws, and most of the laws were kind of targeted towards benefiting the wealthy and the rich and more or less fucking over the farmers who had to work every single day. So yeah, possible theory, very possible theory. Also, the Redditor who originally posted that theory deleted his account, so I can't really give credit. Alright, we're now on to tier 5. This is where all the juicy stuff is. Alright, let's just get into it. Max repels art from a rival company of Super Repels. This theory is actually from user Motherstep, so thank you to him. Now the theory is actually that Max repels are from a different brand than Super repels because Max repels are more money despite the fact that they don't really give you that much bang for your buck. Like if you really calculate it, Super repels would be like a much better investment because they last you longer and they're kind of cheaper in a way. So that kind of implies that Max repels are like a premium brand if you want to look at it like that. Kanto is corrupt. If you played Pokemon Red and Blue, then you know that in the games, a lot of the routes are blocked off because Team Rocket are supposedly operating in them. However, they don't really tell you that. They just kind of say, don't go in, alright? Don't go in. And it's only until you give them like a cup of tea that they'll let you in, which is kind of fucked if you kind of think about it. Like, oh yeah, cup of tea, thank you. Oh yeah, you can go in. Like, you'll probably die, but you can go in. It doesn't matter. At least I got my tea. I kind of like this theory because it kind of implies that Team Rocket has a lot more power than we really think, to the point where like they kind of control the police. Yeah, we're gonna get into that kind of detail in a bit. Fossil Pokemon were altered. This was from user Rescue. I think that's how you pronounce your name. I'm sorry if that's not. So this theory basically kind of gives the idea that the fossil Pokemon got the rock type from being revived, and like the rocks and sediments kind of got into like the DNA and kind of fucked with it. Yamper are domesticated Electrike. This is from Zoroark, I think that's how you pronounce the name. The theory is that Electrikes and Manectrics were domesticated over time to basically evolve into Yamper and Boltund because they're both dog Pokemon that are electric. And they also both produce electricity from running and both evolve around the same time, which is like level 25. Alright boys, we're now on to tier 6, the final tier. LT Surge's War. Wait, why am I calling him LT Surge? It's Lieutenant. Lieutenant Surge, there you go. A lot of people have the theory that Lieutenant Surge actually fought in the Pokemon equivalent to World War II, or the Persian Gulf War, or the Vietnam War, or insert other war that happened within the past 50 years. Alright, people aren't really consistent with what they think about it. My personal theory, and it's one that I made up on the spot like an hour ago, and the theory is basically that Team Rocket went to war with Kanto, and that's actually the war that Lieutenant Surge fought in. And the reason why they went to war is because Team Rocket has so much control of the region. You know, they had scientists on their side, they presumably had police on their side. If I was the president of Kanto, I would look at that and go like, that ain't good. Let's go to war with them. Think of it like the Pokemon equivalent of the drug war in Mexico. Why not? Mewtwo is red. The idea of this is that Red has a big vendetta against Team Rocket to the point where he goes out of his way to tear them apart, and it doesn't really make much sense as to why he gives so much of a shit about it. And this theory basically suggests that Mewtwo is actually controlling Red to take down Team Rocket. This theory is also supported by the fact that Red doesn't talk at all for some reason. Alder is the ancient hero. There's a whole video about this by Hybrid Hero, so check that out if you're interested in a much better breakdown than I ever could. But the whole idea is that in Pokemon Legends Arceus, there was a guy called the Ancient Trainer who presumably had the 5 rad Pokemon and the 5 noble Pokemon. And this guy blessed the region with his Pokemon, and after he died, those Pokemon ended up just going down from generation to generation. Now, it's never really answered who the ancient hero is, but people have an idea as to who. People think the ancient hero is actually Alder from Unova. This is mostly because in Pokemon Legends Arceus, you actually see a painting of Alder. There's no way in hell Alder is that old. Like, it doesn't make sense for Alder to have a painting of himself 3,000 years ago. So what if, bear with me, Alder went back in time, became the ancient hero, and then died? Blue is a spy for Team Rocket. For some reason, Blue was there during the Silphco invasion, and it's never really explained why, so people have the theory that Blue is actually like a secret agent for Team Rocket. Like, I don't know, I just don't like the theory that like he's actually like evil. I just kind of like the idea that he's just an asshole that pushes the main character. Hilbert and Hila were killed. Ghetsis has been established to be a very messed up guy, to the point where there's actually a theory that his High Dragon actually bit his eye and arm off. This theory kind of goes on with that to say that after Black and White, Ghetsis was so butthurt about losing that he went out to kill the main character, and that's why there's no trace of them in the sequels. Melmetal caused everything. This is from user Weekly Introduction 42. This isn't from the original Reddit thread, but this is such an interesting theory because it kind of explains what actually happened 3,000 years ago when Eternatus came and when the ultimate weapon was fired. So yeah, bear with me because it's gonna be a long theory. It's common knowledge that a whole bunch of shit went down 3,000 years ago prior to the events of every main series Pokemon game currently released. I gotta stop reading fast. The darkest day in the ultimate weapon firing, to be precise. What's overlooked that 3,000 years ago was also when Melmetal was most prominent according to Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee Pokedex entry. In addition, Melmetal is said to be able to create unique metal tools using its ability. I believe that Melmetal was responsible for not only creating the Rusted Sword and the Rusted Shield, but also potentially the ultimate weapon itself. Let's look at the evidence. Melmetal is said to have come back from life after 3,000 years, implying that the species had died out at one point, potentially due to an extortion created by the ultimate weapon, or simply having their life force absorbed by the power of it. The Rusted Sword and Shield add the Steel type into Zacian and Zamazenta, respectively. Gigantamax Melmetal is said to have a legend about it in the Faraway Land. While Faraway Land is frequently referred to as Or, I believe it can also mean Kalos for this instance. Although this is called into question by Kalos' apparently proximity to Galar, assuming distance between the two regions being entirely possible. The ultimate weapon is made of seemingly bizarre crystalline structure with no visible mechanisms, yet it's consistently shown and stated to be a machine, with an activation key and the ability to hook up to modern machinery. Such a thing may have been possible through the use of Melmetal's unique, almost alchemical, I can't pronounce that word, I'm sorry, abilities. If all this is true, it could mean that Melmetal is single-handedly the most important Pokemon in this entire canon, responsible for both nearly ending and assisting in saving the world. Giratina is the shadow of Arceus. This theory is from TyranitarTube, so credit to him. This theory actually comes from me watching his Legends Arceus playthrough and him having a lot of mini theories throughout the whole battle between Giratina and Arceus. So something that was found is that apparently Arceus does not use the move Judgment on Giratina. Now that could be intentional or not, it kind of depends on if it's a glitch or not, or if maybe TyranitarTube just kind of got lucky. But for some reason, Arceus doesn't really use Judgment on Giratina. So that begs the question, why doesn't Arceus just destroy Giratina? Well, so first thing we should say is that Arceus is a normal type, and Giratina is a ghost type, and also a dragon type. However, that dragon type is supposed to establish a connection between Palkia and Dialga. The ghost type is supposed to be the fact that Giratina itself is a complete opposite to Arceus. That the reason why Giratina exists is probably as like a foil to Arceus, if that makes sense. What I'm trying to get at is basically Giratina is the shadow of Arceus. No matter how hard Arceus can try, for some reason he is just unable to destroy him. Now, you can kind of get meta with this theory that it kind of represents the whole idea of free will and a god. Like maybe the reason why Giratina exists is because Giratina represents the evil and free will. Arceus gave the world free will. You're also prone to a lot of bad things happening as an enforcement of that free will. Or maybe I'm a fucking dumbass. Either way, all I just want to say is thank you for watching. Now, this video has taken me forever to upload, and it's probably going to take me even more to edit, so I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be a fucking pain in the ass, I swear to God. Honestly, I started this off as like a little small project that eventually evolved into me making it like a full-scale production. Kinda, not really. I mean, it's just me doing the whole thing. So yeah, if it's shit, I'm sorry, but that's just because I'm kind of new to this whole like YouTube thing. So I do apologize for that. Also, I want to clarify that this video is very much inspired by Wendigoon because Wendigoon is such a G. Like, Wendigoon kind of inspired me to make this channel in a way because I just love the fact that he was able to talk about whatever the fuck he wanted and get money from it. So yeah, if there was any like weird imitations I made of Wendigoon, trust me, it was all in flattery. I fucking love the guy. And Wendigoon, by some miracle you're watching this, I doubt you are, but if you are, first off, I'm sorry the video is shit. And second of all, thank you for inspiring me and many others to kind of do this whole thing the way we want to, which is to make videos about weird, generic, obscure topics like Pokemon conspiracy theories. Who would have guessed I made a video about this? Also, I want to emphasize that if you want a part 2 to this video, just ask for it in the comments. It's only 6 tiers because I couldn't really think of any more theories, and a lot of the theories from the original Pokemon thread were kind of repetitive, to say the least. So yeah, sorry that's kind of short, but listen, if you guys want a part 2 and want to submit your own theories, leave it in the comments. I'm very much flattered to make it. Like, I'm down to make a part 2. Trust me. Also, yeah, I don't know what else to say. So yeah, subscribe, hit the bell, hit the like button, all the generic shit I should be saying. Sorry, but anyways, I'm just gonna end it here. Thank you for watching. It's a big flatter. It's flattering. It's flattering that you watched this video. Okay, thank you.